Let me ask you something honestly. How many problems in your life started not because of what you did, but because of what you said? One sentence, one careless word, one emotional reply. And suddenly a relationship breaks, a reputation cracks, or peace disappears. You know, the mouth has no lock, but it has the power to unlock success or lock you into regret. Today, I'm not here to tell you to stay silent. I'm here to help you train your mouth so your words don't betray your wisdom. Your anger doesn't speak before your intelligence, and your emotions don't ruin what years of effort built. Because remember this, strong people control their words. Weak moments control careless mouths. Most of the damage in our lives doesn't happen because our intentions were bad. It happens because our words were careless. We may have meant well, we may have felt right, we may even have been emotionally honest, but the moment words leave the mouth, they no longer belong to our intention. They begin their own journey. Words travel faster than explanations, faster than apologies, faster than regret. And once they reach the other person, they settle there in a way we cannot control. Think about it. How many times have you said something and immediately thought, that's not what I meant? But the problem is, people don't hear what you mean. They hear what you say. Your intention stays inside you, invisible and private. Your words, however, become public property. They are interpreted, judged, remembered, and sometimes replayed for years. This is why a single sentence can undo months of effort, and one careless remark can overshadow a lifetime of good behavior. Words have weight. They don't just pass through the air and disappear. They land. They sit in someone's mind. They echo in someone's heart. A harsh sentence spoken in 10 seconds can live inside another person for 10 years. And when that happens, explaining later becomes useless, because explanations are slow, but words are instant. By the time you say, I didn't mean it like that, the damage is already done. Many people confuse honesty with carelessness. They say, I'm just being honest, without realizing that honesty without sensitivity becomes cruelty. Just because a thought is true in your mind doesn't mean it is ready to be spoken. Wisdom is not about saying everything you think. Wisdom is about thinking before you say anything. The mature person understands that words are tools, not toys. You don't throw tools around. You use them carefully, knowing they can either build or destroy. Another hard truth is this: people remember tone more than content. You may say the right thing, but if the tone is wrong, the message is lost. A helpful sentence delivered with arrogance feels like an insult. A correction delivered with anger feels like an attack. And later, when you try to clarify, the other person doesn't remember your logic. They remember how you made them feel. This is why emotional intelligence begins with verbal control. When emotions rise, intelligence drops. In moments of anger, frustration, or ego, words come out unfiltered. And those are the moments when words do the most damage. Not because they are carefully chosen, because they are carelessly released. At that point, the mouth becomes faster than the mind. And once that happens, regret is guaranteed. The problem is not that we don't know better. The problem is that we speak before we remember what we know. Words also shape how people see you. You may be hardworking, kind, and capable, but one careless comment can label you as rude, arrogant, or insensitive. Fair or unfair, this is how the world works. People judge character through language. Your mouth becomes your introduction even when you are not in the room. Others quote you. They repeat what you said. And slowly, your reputation is built not just on your actions, but on your sentences. This is why training the mouth is more important than training the tongue to be clever. Anyone can speak fast. Anyone can speak loudly. But speaking wisely requires restraint. It requires awareness. It requires the humility to accept that just because you can say something doesn't mean you should. The strongest people are not those who always have a reply. The strongest people are those who know when silence will communicate more than speech. Words also reveal what is happening inside us. A peaceful mind produces gentle language. A disturbed mind produces sharp words. If you listen carefully to your own speech, you can diagnose your inner state. When your words become bitter, sarcastic, or aggressive, it's not a communication problem. It's an emotional one. Training your mouth, therefore, is not only about external discipline. It's about inner clarity. One of the most powerful habits you can build is this. Before speaking, ask yourself one simple question: how will this land? Not how will it feel to say it, but how will it feel to hear it? This small pause creates a big difference. It slows words down. It gives intention a chance to catch up with language. And many times in that pause, you realize that silence is the wiser choice. In the end, words are seeds. Once planted, they grow on their own. You cannot control how fast they grow, how deep they root, or what kind of fruit they produce. That is why every sentence deserves respect. Speak as if your words will be remembered, because often they are. Speak as if your future is listening, because it is. Many people fear silence because they misunderstand it. They believe that if they don't speak, they will appear weak, ignored, or defeated. They think silence means losing an argument, accepting disrespect, or lacking confidence. But in reality, silence is not the absence of strength, it is the presence of control. Silence is not what happens when you have nothing to say. Silence is what happens when you have the power to say something and still choose not to. Weakness reacts immediately. Discipline pauses. When someone provokes you, insults you, or misunderstands you, the easiest thing to do is to speak. The hardest thing is to stay quiet. Anyone can react. Very few can restrain themselves. And that restraint is not accidental. It is trained. Just like muscles grow when you resist weight, inner strength grows when you resist unnecessary speech. Silence protects your dignity. The moment you start explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you, you lose power. Not every accusation deserves a response. Not every opinion needs correction. Not every battle is worth fighting. Silence allows you to step back and ask, is this conversation adding value to my life or stealing peace from it? Often, silence is the decision to value peace over pride. There is also a deep confidence hidden inside silence. People who are unsure of themselves feel the need to justify everything. They talk excessively to prove their worth. But people who are secure don't rush to defend their image. They know that character doesn't need loud announcements. When you are comfortable with who you are, silence becomes natural. You don't panic when misunderstood because you trust time, consistency, and actions to speak on your behalf. Silence also prevents regret. Many of the sentences we wish we could take back were spoken too quickly. Words released in emotion cannot be retrieved. Silence, on the other hand, gives emotions time to settle. It creates a buffer between feeling and speaking. In that space, wisdom has a chance to enter. Often, what felt urgent to say in the moment feels unnecessary after a few minutes of silence. There is power in not giving immediate access to your thoughts. When you speak everything you think, you give people control over your emotional state. Silence keeps your inner world protected. It allows you to observe instead of engage, to understand instead of attack. Through silence, you gain information. You notice patterns. You see intentions. And with that awareness, when you finally do speak, your words carry weight. Silence is also a form of self-respect. It tells the world that your energy is valuable, that not everyone deserves your reaction, that your peace is not cheap. When you respond to every comment, every provocation, every criticism, you allow others to decide how you feel. Silence takes that power back. It says, I choose where my attention goes. Many conflicts escalate not because the issue is big, but because words keep feeding the fire. Silence removes oxygen. Arguments die when one person refuses to fuel them. This is not avoidance, this is intelligence. You are not running away, you are rising above. Silence doesn't mean you agree. It simply means you refuse to participate in chaos. It's important to understand that silence is not permanent withdrawal. It is selective engagement. Knowing when to speak and when not to is a sign of emotional maturity. Silence today can make your words tomorrow more impactful. When someone who is usually quiet speaks, people listen. Why? Because silence has created credibility. Silence also strengthens self-awareness. When you stop speaking, you start listening to others and to yourself. You notice your triggers. You understand why certain words upset you. This inner observation is impossible when you are constantly talking. Silence turns attention inward, and that inward attention leads to growth. In a world where everyone is shouting to be heard, silence becomes rare and therefore powerful. It unsettles people. It confuses those who expect reaction. It exposes those who rely on drama. Silence forces others to confront themselves instead of feeding off your response. Choosing silence does not mean suppressing yourself. It means expressing yourself wisely. It means understanding that timing matters more than volume. It means knowing that some messages are better delivered through actions, consistency, and calm presence rather than speech. Ultimately, silence is discipline because it requires effort. It requires humility. It requires the courage to let go of the need to be right, to be noticed, to be validated. And when you master silence, you don't lose your voice, you refine it. Your words become fewer, calmer, and more meaningful. And when you finally speak, your silence will have already said half of what needed to be heard. Most people don't realize that emotion, when it takes control of speech, becomes a terrible communicator. Emotion feels powerful inside us, so we assume it will sound powerful outside as well. But the truth is, emotion doesn't know how to explain, it only knows how to express. And expression without understanding creates confusion, conflict, and damage. When emotion becomes the speaker, logic leaves the room and wisdom follows soon after. In emotional moments, the goal is not to be correct, the goal is to release pressure. Anger wants relief, hurt wants validation, ego wants dominance. None of these care about clarity. That is why emotional words are rarely precise. They exaggerate, they accuse, they generalize. You always, you never, everyone knows. These are not intelligent sentences, they are emotional shortcuts. They may feel satisfying to say, but they almost always fail to solve the problem. Emotion also distorts reality. When you are angry, neutral actions feel like attacks. When you are insecure, simple feedback feels like rejection. When you are jealous, harmless conversations feel like betrayal. In that state, the mouth does not report facts, it reports feelings. And feelings, while valid, are not always accurate. Speaking from emotion means you are sharing a temporary internal storm, as if it were permanent truth. Another danger of emotional speech is that it escalates situations instantly. Calm words invite discussion, emotional words invite defense. The moment your tone becomes sharp, the other person stops listening and starts protecting themselves. At that point, communication breaks down. You may still be speaking, but no one is receiving the message. You are talking to release emotion, not to create understanding. Emotion also removes filters. Thoughts that would normally stay inside suddenly rush out. Sarcasm replaces clarity. Volume replaces reason. Personal attacks replace problem solving. And once these words are spoken, they cannot be edited. You may apologize later, but the original emotional impact remains. People forgive, but they rarely forget how you made them feel in an emotional moment. Many people believe that speaking from the heart is always good. But a heart without calm is not a guide, it is a reactor. A calm mind speaks from understanding, an emotional mind speaks from impulse. This is why the same person can say something wise in the morning and something destructive in the evening. The difference is not intelligence, it is emotional state. Emotion also turns conversations into competitions. When emotions rise, the focus shifts from solving the issue to winning the argument. Listening disappears. Interrupting increases. The mouth tries to dominate instead of communicate. At that stage, even silence from the other person feels threatening because emotion interprets everything as opposition. One of the most important skills in life is learning to delay speech when emotions are high. This delay is not suppression, it is regulation. It allows the emotional wave to pass so that reason can return. Strong people don't deny emotion, they manage it. They feel deeply, but they speak carefully. They understand that not every feeling deserves immediate verbal expression. Emotion is useful as a signal, not as a speaker. It tells you that something matters, that a boundary has been crossed, that a value has been challenged. But once the signal is received, the mouth should wait for the mind to take over. When emotion speaks directly, it often says things that the mind later has to clean up. There is also a long-term cost to emotional speech. People start to walk on eggshells around you. They become cautious. They hold back honesty. Not because you are wrong, but because they fear your reaction. Over time, this damages trust and openness. Emotional outbursts create distance, even when closeness was the original desire. Learning to separate feeling from speaking is a sign of maturity. You can feel anger without shouting. You can feel hurt without accusing. You can feel disappointment without humiliating. This separation does not weaken emotion, it strengthens communication. It ensures that feelings are expressed in a way that can be heard. When you train yourself to pause during emotional moments, something interesting happens. The urge to speak fades. What once felt urgent begins to feel unnecessary. You realize that silence was not weakness, it was wisdom arriving on time. And when you do finally speak, your words are calmer, clearer, and far more effective. Emotion is powerful, but power without control is dangerous. Just like fire, emotion can warm or burn. When you let it speak freely, it burns bridges. When you contain it and channel it wisely, it fuels understanding. The choice is not between emotion and logic. The choice is whether emotion will lead or whether it will be guided. In the end, your words should reflect your values, not your momentary moods. Feel everything but say only what you can stand by when the emotion has passed. Because emotions are temporary, but the impact of words can be permanent. Most people underestimate the power of a pause. They believe that if they don't respond immediately, they are losing control of the conversation. In reality, the pause is where control begins. A pause is not empty space, it is a moment of intelligence stepping in. It is the brief gap that allows thought to catch up with emotion, wisdom to catch up with impulse, and intention to catch up with words. Human beings are wired to respond quickly. When someone says something uncomfortable, the body reacts before the mind has time to evaluate. The heart rate changes, the breath becomes shallow, and the mouth prepares to defend. In that moment, speaking feels urgent. But urgency is not clarity. Urgency is often fear in disguise, fear of being misunderstood, disrespected, or defeated. The pause interrupts this automatic reaction and returns choice to your hands. 1 second of pause can prevent years of regret. This may sound dramatic, but it is deeply true. Many broken relationships, lost opportunities, and damaged reputations can be traced back to a single unpaused sentence. A sentence that came out too fast. A sentence that felt right in the moment, but wrong forever after. The pause is the small gate that decides whether words will become weapons or tools. Pausing does not mean suppressing yourself. It means refining your response. It means giving yourself time to choose words that reflect who you want to be, not how you feel right now. When you pause, you are silently asking yourself important questions. What is really happening here? What is the outcome I want? Will these words help or harm? Without the pause, these questions never get asked. The pause also changes the energy of a conversation. When you stop for a moment instead of reacting instantly, the other person notices. The tension shifts. The pace slows. Often the other person also becomes more thoughtful. Pausing has a calming effect, not just on you, but on the entire interaction. It signals confidence. It shows that you are not being dragged by emotion. Many people speak quickly because they are afraid of silence. Silence feels awkward, so they fill it with words. But silence, when used intentionally, is powerful. A brief pause can communicate seriousness, maturity, and self-respect. It tells others that your words are considered, not careless, that you speak by choice, not by compulsion. Pausing also protects you from saying things you don't fully mean. Emotions push extreme language. Always, never, everyone. These words come out when there is no pause. When you pause, language becomes precise. You replace exaggeration with accuracy. You replace accusation with explanation. The message becomes clearer, and the chance of being misunderstood decreases. Another benefit of pausing is that it allows you to listen better. Often, while someone else is speaking, we are already preparing our reply. We are not listening, we are rehearsing. A pause breaks this habit. It allows you to actually absorb what was said. And many times, when you truly listen, you realize that the situation is not as threatening as it first appeared. Pausing also builds emotional resilience. It trains your nervous system to tolerate discomfort without reacting. This is a powerful life skill. When you can sit with an uncomfortable feeling without immediately speaking, you gain inner stability. You are no longer controlled by every emotional wave. You become grounded. And grounded people communicate better. In difficult conversations, the pause becomes even more important. When emotions are high, the risk of miscommunication increases. A pause gives you time to lower the emotional temperature. It prevents conversations from turning into arguments. It keeps discussions from becoming personal attacks. The pause acts like a filter, catching words that don't need to be spoken. Some people worry that pausing makes them look unsure or weak, but in reality, rushed speech is often a sign of insecurity. Confident people are comfortable taking their time. They don't feel the need to prove themselves with immediate answers. They trust their ability to respond thoughtfully. The pause is a quiet display of self-assurance. Over time, practicing the pause changes your communication style. You speak less, but you say more. Your words become intentional. People begin to take you seriously. Not because you are loud, but because you are deliberate. Your responses feel grounded instead of reactive. The pause is especially powerful in moments of conflict. When someone is trying to provoke you, a pause breaks their strategy. It denies them the reaction they expect. Often, the conflict loses momentum simply because you didn't respond immediately. The pause creates space for the situation to de-escalate naturally. Learning to pause is a discipline. It requires awareness and patience. But once mastered, it becomes a natural part of how you speak. You no longer rush to fill silence. You no longer fear a moment of stillness. You understand that the pause is not a gap, it is a guard. In the end, pausing before you speak is not about saying less. It is about saying what matters. It is about ensuring that your words represent your values, not your impulses. A single pause may seem insignificant, but its impact is immense. Because in that pause, you choose who is speaking, your emotion, or your intelligence. Most people underestimate the lasting impact of words spoken with the intention to hurt. They may feel justified in the moment, believing that pain must be returned, that sharpness deserves sharpness. But words meant to wound rarely solve anything. They create distance, resistance, and long-term damage. Speaking to heal is not about being soft or weak. It is about being responsible with the power your words carry. When you speak to hurt, the focus shifts away from the issue and toward the ego. The conversation stops being about understanding and starts being about winning. In that space, nobody learns, nobody grows, and nothing improves. Hurtful words may provide temporary emotional relief, but they leave behind resentment that quietly grows. Healing words, on the other hand, aim to repair rather than dominate. They seek clarity instead of control. Healing language does not mean avoiding difficult conversations. It means choosing words that address the problem without attacking the person. There is a difference between saying, "You always ruin things," and saying, "This situation hurt me, and I want us to understand it better." The first sentence closes doors. The second opens them. Both express emotion, but only one invites resolution. Words that heal are rooted in awareness. They acknowledge feelings without assigning blame. They focus on experience rather than accusation. This kind of speech requires emotional maturity because it demands vulnerability. It is easier to attack than to explain how something affected you. Yet explanation leads to connection, while attack leads to isolation. When your intention is to heal, your tone naturally softens. You speak slower. You listen more. You leave space for the other person to respond. Healing words create safety. They allow others to lower their defenses and engage honestly. Hurtful words, by contrast, trigger protection. Once someone feels attacked, they stop listening and start surviving the conversation. Many relationships suffer not because the issues are big, but because the language is careless. Small misunderstandings become deep wounds when words are sharp. Over time, these wounds accumulate. Trust erodes, emotional distance grows. Speaking to heal prevents this buildup. It addresses problems early, gently, and clearly. Healing speech also requires knowing when to delay words. Sometimes the most healing choice is not to speak immediately. When emotions are high, even well-intentioned words can come out wrong. Waiting until calm returns ensures that what you say will help rather than harm. Silence, in this context, becomes part of healing. Another important aspect of healing language is empathy. When you try to understand before being understood, your words change. You stop speaking from judgment and start speaking from curiosity. "Help me understand" is far more powerful than "you are wrong." Empathy transforms conversations from confrontations into collaborations. Speaking to heal also means being honest without being brutal. Truth does not require cruelty. You can be direct and still be kind. You can set boundaries without humiliating. You can disagree without disrespecting. Healing words balance honesty with compassion. They don't hide reality, but they deliver it in a way that can be received. People often remember not the exact words, but the intention behind them. When your intention is healing, even imperfect words are forgiven. When your intention is to hurt, even accurate words leave scars. This is why intention matters more than clever phrasing. The heart behind the speech shapes its impact. Healing language also strengthens your own character. When you choose to speak with care, you train yourself to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. This builds inner calm and self-respect. You no longer walk away from conversations regretting what you said. You leave knowing that you acted in alignment with your values. There is also a quiet power in refusing to use words as weapons. It breaks cycles of negativity. It stops arguments from escalating. It sets a standard for how you expect to be treated. When you consistently speak to heal, people learn that conversations with you are safe, respectful, and meaningful. Speaking to heal does not guarantee immediate results. Not everyone will respond positively, but it ensures that you are not adding harm to an already difficult situation. It ensures that, regardless of the outcome, you have not compromised your integrity. In the long run, healing words build stronger relationships, deeper trust, and clearer communication. They create an environment where growth is possible. Hurtful words may feel powerful for a moment, but healing words create lasting impact. Choosing to speak to heal is a daily practice. It requires patience, awareness, and restraint. But each time you choose healing over hurting, you strengthen your voice. Your words become instruments of understanding rather than sources of pain. And in a world full of noise, voices that heal are the ones that truly matter. Every time you open your mouth, you reveal more about yourself than you realize. Long before people understand your intentions or get to know your character, they listen to your language. The way you speak, the words you choose, the tone you use, and the timing of your speech quietly expose your mindset. You may think you are just talking, but in reality, you are constantly communicating how you see the world, how you see others, and how you see yourself. A calm, respectful way of speaking often comes from an organized and secure mind. When your thoughts are clear, your words flow with clarity. You don't rush. You don't interrupt. You don't feel the need to dominate conversations. This does not mean you are passive, it means you are grounded. On the other hand, aggressive, sarcastic, or defensive language often signals inner unrest. It suggests that the mind is busy protecting itself rather than understanding others. People with a growth-oriented mindset tend to use language that is open and curious. They ask questions instead of making assumptions. They say things like, "I may be wrong," or "help me understand." These phrases reflect humility and confidence at the same time. In contrast, a fixed or insecure mindset often uses absolute language. Always, never, everyone. Such words close the door to dialogue. They reveal a need to control rather than to learn. The mouth also exposes emotional maturity. When someone can disagree without becoming disrespectful, it shows inner stability. When someone can receive feedback without becoming defensive, it shows self-awareness. These qualities are not hidden, they are audible. You can hear maturity in patience, in pauses, and in thoughtful responses. You can hear immaturity in interruptions, raised voices, and personal attacks. Language also reflects how much responsibility a person takes for their life. Those who avoid responsibility often use blaming language. They point fingers, shift fault, and speak as if life is happening to them. Their words are full of excuses and complaints. Those who take ownership use different language. They acknowledge mistakes. They focus on solutions. They speak about what they can control rather than what others did wrong. Even humor reveals mindset. Healthy humor lifts the room. It does not belittle or humiliate. Insecure humor often relies on sarcasm, mockery, or putting others down. This kind of speech may get laughs, but it also exposes unresolved insecurity. The mouth cannot hide what the mind hasn't healed. Your language also shapes how people treat you. When you speak with respect, calmness, and clarity, others naturally respond with the same. When your words are chaotic, aggressive, or careless, people either push back or pull away. Over time, your communication style becomes your social identity. People know what to expect from you based on how you speak. One of the most powerful realizations is that you can change your mindset by changing your language. The relationship works both ways. Just as your thoughts influence your words also influence your thoughts. When you intentionally choose calmer, more respectful language, your inner state begins to shift. Speaking kindly, even when you don't feel calm, slowly trains the mind toward calmness. Listening to yourself speak is a powerful form of self-awareness. Pay attention to your tone when you are stressed. Notice the words you use when things don't go your way. These moments reveal your inner patterns. Instead of judging yourself, observe. Awareness is the first step to growth. Once you hear your own mindset in your speech, you gain the ability to refine it. People often try to impress through vocabulary or volume, but true impact comes from authenticity and clarity. A centered mindset doesn't need fancy words. It communicates simply and effectively. Such speech carries confidence without arrogance. It does not rush to prove itself. It trusts that its value will be felt. Your mouth also reveals how you handle power. When someone speaks down to others, interrupts frequently, or dismisses opinions, it shows insecurity masked as authority. True strength speaks with inclusion. It listens. It acknowledges. It invites contribution. These habits reflect inner confidence, not weakness. Over time, people may forget your achievements, but they remember how you spoke to them. They remember whether they felt respected or diminished. Your words become emotional memories in other people's minds. These memories are shaped not by what you intended, but by how your language made them feel. Training your mouth, therefore, is not just about better communication. It is about inner alignment. It is about making sure that your words reflect the person you want to be. When your language and your values match, your presence becomes powerful. You don't need to demand respect. Your words naturally earn it. In the end, your mouth is like a mirror. It reflects your inner world to the outer one. If you want to know where your mindset truly stands, listen carefully to how you speak. When you are tired, challenged, or disagreed with, that is where the truth shows up. And that truth, once recognized, becomes the starting point for real change.